Hi everybody, you're watching The Culture Cave, a continuation of extracts from Searching for the Dharma, Finding Salvation, Buddhist Pilgrimage in Time and Space. Continuing on the extracts from the chapter of the pilgrimage to Mount Ka, Bardo Po, a metaphor for Bardo. What's really interesting is this idea of suffering during the pilgrimage. It's not a luxury, it's not a luxurious experience to go on a pilgrimage. It's a search. It's a search for enlightenment, but it's not certainly not for the faint-hearted. It's also the idea of preparing for death in a way that the book suggests. If we haven't experienced the terrifying, we might not be able to make that leap to the next level, as it were, in terms of the spiritual journey. And coming back to the mountain though, there is an extract from one of the pilgrimages of Mount Ka Po, and this Tibetan yogin of the 19th century, Zabz Dakar, writes, "It is a very dangerous pilgrimage. There are only ravines, no vegetation. We had to cross many high, barren passes full of brigands and cross rivers hanging onto a rope. Everywhere you saw very steep cliffs. The paths were very narrow, and it was always raining. When sleeping at night, one had to tie oneself to a tree in order to avoid falling into a precipice. The forests were deep and full of wild animals," which sounds wonderful but also terrifying. Even if all pilgrimages sound sacred, mountains do not present the same difficulties as those of Sari and Bardo Po. Mountains frequently offer a rough landscape. Vertiginous paths are always numerous, snowstorms are frequent, and the roaring of thunderstorms is regularly heard. And it's actually said that in past times, the Sino-Japanese who embarked on these mountains, there were a number of deaths in an avalanche actually, and the Tibetans truly believe that it was the Sino-Japanese who angered this mountain, who angered the nature of the mountain by invading it. So a lot of historical reference here. Another key fact about Tibetan Buddhism is that after death, according to Tibetan Buddhist a religion, a spiritual practice, the consciousness wanders in the intermediate state during 49 days before entering into the next life. That's a significant part of Buddhism. The aim in reciting the texts is to guide the consciousness through a process of purification in the Bardo until its integration into a new existence, essentially a new state. Indeed, while tantric adepts and scholar monks aim at escaping from the cycle of the existences, namely samsara, ordinary people know that such a goal is beyond them. But the rebirth is then a difficult voyage into the unknown, a process over which they have no control, entirely determined by the individual's karma. Everyone knows that to cross the Bardo will be a fearsome passage, during which, unable to recognize the manifestations of actual reality, he will be confronted with terrifying visions and overcome by fear, feelings that can be also experienced during a pilgrimage around sacred mountains. So again, it's the idea of a rehearsal essentially, and George Harrison used to talk of this, didn't he, in his living years, about everything passing and how we are preparing for death, if we want to do it the right way, or the best way possible with the time that we have. Reciting sutras is a key part of this. Connecting to the relevant sound waves as well is a very effective way to do this, and these tools can be accessed through yoga. Another interesting thing is the symbolism of pebbles or anything that is physical manifestation on which to expel the sins. Now in Japan, this is done at temples by, when you get a bad luck paper, a bad luck fortune, essentially, you can tie it to the tree. That's the tradition. You get rid of it, so all of that bad energy is hanging in the paper of a tree. Now paper, essentially the word paper, kami in Japanese, the word for God or deity in Japanese is also kami. So it's this idea of the connection, the not so much the ephemeral, but the very light material connecting to the heavens. Of course, this also ties into origami and the creation of these symbols in origami, birds and whatnot, believed to be, and butterflies too, carriers to the heavens, in various spiritual belief systems. Bamboo as a natural tool is another thing to mention. The chapter somewhere mentions this, about bamboo being used as a drinking instrument, as an instrument for walking. So connecting to these natural materials around us on pilgrimage is an essential part of pilgrimage, perhaps one of the most soothing parts of connecting to nature. But bamboo itself has many symbolisms within the practice of these walks. So these are all interesting points to mention on this chapter, and how we connect to the Bardos. In a pilgrimage in 1907, the anti-clockwise direction on a pilgrimage called the Stairway of Stones to escape a confrontation with the Chinese authorities gives a frightening description. An abrupt and vertiginous wall, 300 or 400 meters high and dangerous in all weather. In summer, stones roll down. In spring and autumn, when there is still or already snow, pilgrims of a rare merit arrive in groups, tied together with a rope like climbers. But if one of them happens to lose his footing, the others willingly let themselves be dragged into the abyss, happy to secure a reincarnation of the first order by such a meritorious death. Again, the idea of interconnectedness, allowing things to be, allowing things to happen, letting go of the experience. For pilgrims, the border between Bardo and the hells is a blurred one, a confusion which is shown also by the names given to the narrow passages between rocks, narrow path of the Bardo, passages to hell. The conflation of these two concepts can be explained by the fact that both are places where the dead suffer the effects of previous actions while en route to their next place of birth. The two terms essentially came to refer to the same scenario. So it's all about going round full circle, I guess. Thanks for watching.